Not hearing you, Gail. Gail, not hearing you.
Good evening. Good evening, attendees. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for this webinar in our Barbados Together webinar series. We're happy you could take the time out to join us this evening. And I want to start by introducing you to this evening's moderator, Ms. Gail.
Is it me? Not hearing you, Jeffrey.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, we do apologize for the technical issues. Good afternoon, everyone again, our valued tourism workers. Welcome to session 4 in the Barbados Together webinar series. We're pleased to have so many of you join us for what is going to be a very enlightening session. And I first want to welcome the incoming chair of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Mr. Jeffrey Roach, to give a few welcome remarks.
Thank you, Gail. Good evening, everyone. To all of our attendees, we are happy that you can take the time out to join us this evening for this another webinar series in our Barbados Together webinar program.
You're still muted, Jeffrey. Gail is open, but
are you hearing me all? Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Okay, thank you very much for joining us this evening. This is another one of our webinars in the Barbados Together webinar series program. This program arose as a result of the Tourism Task Force being formed and the recognition that there was a need for us to look at some HR development for persons who work in the tourism and hospitality arena. The task force undertook to do some analysis of the needs of our workers, and the first decision was taken to address what we consider to be psychosocial aspect. And this first phase has been addressing that through sessions dealing with mental health, physical health, stress, change, and how we manage it. And today we are going to focus on change and how we are managing change. These sessions are going to be recorded and loaded onto a platform where you can access them later if you weren't able to join us today, or if you were and you want to do a recap, then you'll be able to do so, because we know that within an hour to hour and a half, it's not necessarily possible that you might recall everything that's being said, and we want to give you the opportunity to be able to go back and refresh and just gain some more insight from the presenters that we're going to have during this process. One of the things that we will be doing following the webinar series is that we will have some training programs that are going to then focus more on the technical skills of different persons in the industry. These will include, whether it be language skills, whether it be customer service skills, whether it be, accounting skills. But it's going to be a broad range of skill sets, so that persons across the industry can retrain, can upskill, and just improve themselves. Because the intention at the end of all of this is to ensure that once we are past this crisis, and we'll get past it, that Barbados can emerge stronger than we were before, firing on all cylinders to ensure that this industry recovers to the benefit of all of us and to the benefit of Barbados. So with that, I'll turn you back over to the moderator, to Ms. Gail Headley-Lowe, and I ask that you, take in as much as you can and benefit from this session.
Hey, Gail, we're not hearing you.
Right. Let me just jump in here because we seem to be having a technical problem on the side of the moderator. You know, we do have these technical challenges every now and then. Technology, things will go wrong. Gail, are you hearing me? If you're hearing
Yes.
me, okay, we're hearing you now. So let me just turn back over to Gail. Go ahead,
Okay.
Gail.
Just want to make sure everyone is hearing me clearly. I do apologize. The title of our webinar today is Surfing the Waves of Change. It will be presented by Mr. Tony Olton. Mr. Olton is a former educator, VP of Sales with a regional life insurance company, and he also founded the Potter Center. The Potter Center is a regional training and HRD consultancy, and it was founded in 1998. Today, Mr. Olton is the executive director and the principal consultant of the Potter Center. He therefore brings a rich background of training and management experience to his seminars and his workshops. So let's welcome Mr. Olton as we get ready to hear his encouraging words, his steps, and his ideas to help us weather the waves of change. Mr. Olton.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Jeffrey. Tamisha, Jamila, sorry, if you can just allow me to share screen. Nothing as yet. Jamila. There you go. Okay, we got it. Thanks. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I am really, really pleased by the opportunity to be able to share with you this evening. As Gail indicated, our webinar is entitled Surfing the Waves of Change. So, what are we here? What's this evening about? Three things, really. One, we want to give you the opportunity to be able to connect with each other and to be able to share feelings. That's important because there's a certain therapeutic value in being able to talk about your feelings, identify your feelings and talk about your feelings. The framework is going to be emotional intelligence for our conversation. And one of the things we say in emotional intelligence is that if you can name your emotions, you can tame your emotions. So we're going to give you a little opportunity to be able to do that. Secondly, we want at the end of our time together this evening that you have developed a framework, a perspective and a framework that's going to allow you to effectively navigate through this very highly disruptive period in your life. Many of you are uncertain as to when you're going to return to work, what kind of work is going to be available for you, what kind of work is going to be available for you after when we get back to the new normal. And thirdly, we want to help you get to a position where you're not only adequate for this moment, but also you have adequacy for the moment after COVID-19. Although someone reminded me that the pandemic, that the COVID is not going to go away, that COVID is going to be around for a little while, but the intensity will probably diminish. This evening, all of us come with our own body of wisdom, our own body of experience. So I'm going to ask you in this intended to be highly interactive experience that you come prepared to share with your own experience and wisdom, but also be prepared to listen and as other persons are sharing, so you too benefit from their wisdom. So we're going to benefit from the collective wisdom that is assembled this evening. And Jamila is controlling the mics. However, when you are invited to share or you are in the mood where a place where you want to share, then just raise your hand. There's an icon for doing that. You raise your hand and Jamila will let you in so that you can make your contribution. The webinar is intended to be highly interactive. So this is not going to be one-way traffic this evening. You get to be able to engage me and engage each other. Right, so starting yesterday, we were able to once again go back to the sea. Not quite sure how many of you took the opportunity to do that, but in any event, I brought the sea to you this evening. What do you see? You can come in. I'm asking you to look at this clip. It's a clip of surfers and some pretty mighty waves. My calculation is that these waves at least are 25 foot, 30, 35 foot waves. These are humongous waves. These aren't waves on Brandon's or Cattle Wash. These are serious waves. What do you see as you watch this clip? What thoughts go off in your mind? You can open your mic or raise your hand to indicate that you want to make a contribution. I don't all speak at the same time. What do you see? I'm not hearing anything. Or if you want to, you can put it in the chat and we will follow you. What do you see? Yes, Jeffrey? What do you see?
I see some very brave souls.
What makes you say that?
I'm not surfing a 25-foot wave.
You're not surfing?
25-foot wave, if we can avoid it.
Anybody else?
I see someone here saying that they're the 6% challenging the waves.
In designing and preparing this webinar, when I came across this video, I said, yes, for me, this is the essence of this evening's webinar. Here are these other ways to us, the uninformed. These ways present threats, danger, high levels of risk, uncertainty. Yet these surfers, this is what they live for. They travel the world looking for the biggest and the baddest waves. So that there must be something that they know. And there must be some skill that they have that allows them to effectively, successfully surf these waves. I can imagine on evenings when they come in, or at night when they come in, they're boasting and raising their beers or whatever it is they're drinking, and, you know, proud that they took on a 50-footer or a 25-footer or whatever size of wave they've taken on. So there must be a body of knowledge that they have, a knowing and awareness, and there must be a body of skill that they have that allows them to successfully maneuver. That is what this evening is about. The framework is something called emotional intelligence. Why emotional intelligence? Because emotions drive people. Whatever you think, whatever you say, and whatever you do, there is an emotional basis. You do not move absent an emotion. Our feelings are what move us. So here's my question. In the midst of COVID-19, where you were told to avoid contact, avoid touching your ears, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, stay at home as much as possible. We were told when we could shop. We were told when we had to be home by. In the industry, you guys, just in one fell swoop, work came to an end, and you can't be sure when next you're going to be back to work. And when you go back to work, what is that work going to look like? So there must be feelings that have been going on inside of you. What have been those feelings? Now I prepared this list. This list you're looking at derives from the work of a man called Robert Plutchik. And if you're looking, if you can see my screen and you can see my cursor, on this ring, not the inner ring, the one on the outside, the middle circle, those are what he described in his model as the 8 core emotions. There are joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anger, and anticipation. According to Plutchik, whatever emotion you have, it is one of these emotions or some grade of it, some variation in degree of it, or it is a combination of 2 of the core emotions. So for example, optimism would be a combination of an emotion called anticipation and an emotion called joy. On the other hand, love would be an emotion that is derived from a combination of joy and trust. This evening, we're not getting fully into Plutchik's model. What I'm going to ask you is to come over here and look at the 8 core emotions. I've reproduced them here for you. Joy, trust, anticipation, fear, surprise, sadness, anger, and distress. Now, which of these emotions have you been experiencing in the midst of COVID? In the last 8, almost now 9 weeks of COVID, what have been the emotions from this list that you have been experiencing? Bearing in mind that Plutchik says that we can experience them in different degrees and in combinations. So I'm going to put up a poll. I'm going to ask you to indicate on this poll your sense of the emotions you have experienced. Now select all of them before you hit send. It might be 1, it might be 2, it might be 5, it might be 4, it might be all 8. But what have been the emotions that you have been experiencing? So I'm going to launch the poll. Panelists, you can vote as well. And let's see what the results are like. There's 65 persons in the webinar. And let's see how many of those will actually participate. So look up and down the list and indicate what are the emotions you've been experiencing in this time of COVID. You only hit send where you select all the ones you will identify within yourself. So we have 24 so far. Can we get us up to 50 or 55? Get to 34, 36, 38, 39. $42. Can we get a few more? Can we get to 50? We're at 43. I can go for 10 more seconds. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll. So those are the results. So the overwhelming emotion being experienced seems to be one of anticipation. Anticipation is a look forward, and that's a good place to be. We've also had a mix of sadness that's been followed by fear, anger, there's been some joy, there's some distress, there's been some surprise, and there's been some level of trust. So we've run the full gamut of the 8 core emotions. Anyone wants to share a little bit about their choice and talk a little bit about what they think got them there? Anyone?
And if you can encourage the participants to even type it into the chat.
Yeah, type it in your chat. I'm not seeing the chat. So you're monitoring?
I'm on here.
Thank you. Yes. So you can put your responses into the chat, and Jeffrey will call them back for us.
So we have a response. Fear as it relates to uncertainty.
Yes. Okay. So fear is a message. But emotions generally are messages. What we say is that an emotion is a message from you to you about you. Fear is an emotion centered around the perception of loss. Yeah, it is a projection around a sense that you're going to lose or you have lost something. Yeah, or will lose something. Anybody else? Any other comments?
Yes, Tony, there's also a comment here that says, and I'm not going to read the names because I'm assuming that
Yeah, don't names. Yes,
because they don't want to,
Yes,
One
understood.
says, no work, no income, not enough information to quell my fears, no end in sight.
Wow. Was the emotion identified around that comment?
No, not specifically.
Yeah.
But then I can want to say that.
That sounds like a lot of distress.
Yeah.
That sounds like a little bit of anger mixed in there. Yeah.
There's an
Go on, Jeffrey.
that says anger and distrust at the way some employees have been treated. We have combination surprise at how well my children have adapted, and joy that I can be on the journey with them, but I eagerly await my return to work.
Yes. So there's some anticipation as well. Yeah. Any others? We'll take possibly a couple more seconds.
Yeah. There's one that says joy because no matter your circumstance, you should not let anything steal your joy.
Your joy. Yeah. Great. So emotions are very real. They're not ethereal. They're not, playing these kind of type things. An emotion is really a chemical response produced by your body to some stimulus. Now that stimulus can be on the outside, it can even be on the inside of you. And so your body responds. Your emotions were designed to allow you to survive. And that's one of the things that we said about emotions. Emotions are information sets that allow us to make, if we can understand them, if we can recognize them, if we can understand them, allow us to make strategic decisions. An interesting thing about emotions is that emotions only have a life of 3 to 6 seconds. The original raw chemical response that we call a feeling, that we call an emotion, only had a life of 3 to 6 seconds. So that your grandmother, who didn't go to anybody's university, would have told you that when things happen, count to 10. Operate out of a place where you create space between what happens and how you respond. And a little later, you're going to understand, I will treat to why that bit of advice from our grandparents and great-grandparents is excellent advice. So the point that I'm making here is that it is important to be able to recognize, use, understand, and manage your emotions in good times, in challenging times, and in highly disruptive times. The key is about emotional regulation, emotional management. And as we get further into the webinar, you're going to understand why that is important. Let's look now at you and change. Question: what are some of the changes you've experienced in your personal and work life over the past 10 years? So again, we're going to use the chat, because that's what's working this evening. Put into the chat, when I look back over my life over the last 10 years, what have been some of the changes I've experienced? If it's a person quickly do a quick detail, just key them in. Got married, started having children, changed location, changed jobs, got promoted. What are some of the changes you've experienced in your personal and work life over the past 10 years? Here's the chat. Let's see it. What are some of the changes?
Looking for responses.
Okay.
I'll respond, Tony.
Yes,
a change of job.
Only once or more than once?
Just once.
Just once?
Just once.
Yeah, okay.
So we have one in the chat that says got promoted, started parenthood.
Okay.
We have another one, started 2 auxiliary businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there must be a lot more change. I mean, nobody changed address, changed partner. Any other changes? Change country?
We have someone, Tony, that has gained a degree in tourism and hospitality from UWI Cave Hill.
Yes,
Yeah, so we can congratulate her as well.
Yes, do it. Congratulations.
I can tell you, I had a big change.
Okay, tell me.
I joined the BHDA board.
Oh, there. Secondly, what is life like when there's little or no change taking place? Somebody retired, divorced, and moved, changed location, gained promotion with my employment. Okay, so what is life like when there's little or no change? Could you come back into the chat, put some notes there? What words come to mind when there's no change taking place in your life, little or no change taking place? Stagnant, I see stagnant. No growth, boring, mundane, boredom and comfort, boring, routine, mundane. Yep, sounds about right. And thirdly, what are some of the ways you've tended to respond to change? Somebody says peaceful. Where there's no change, there's peace. Third question, what are some of the ways you've tended to respond to change? Somebody says, not sure, you always have something going on. Yeah. What are some of the ways you've tended to respond to change? Adaptable, with excitement and anticipation. Keep going. Accepting, open, negative or positive mix. Yeah. What about you? Some person says some people react negatively. What about you? Surprise at times, excitement, anticipation. Avoid at all costs or embrace with open arms. So both ends of the spectrum. Somebody believes in embracing change and then assessing it. Some people encourage change. Some things occur to me when I reflect on the answers to these three questions. One, change is constant. Change is just a constant part of our lives. So constant and so necessary that it characterizes life's journey, because in the absence of change, we die. There's no growth. We become stagnant. We become stale. We become uninspired. So change is constant. It characterizes the journey of life, and how we respond to change is highly personal. Now, no two of us will face the same circumstance and see it the same way, nor will we respond the same way. So that how we function in the midst of change is highly, highly personal. It is all about the perspective that we bring to bear. Has anybody seen this equation before? E plus R is equal to O. This is an equation that says the outcomes, the outcomes of our life are a function of E, events, the things that happen, and R, the responses that we bring. So the events in our lives plus the responses that we mount ultimately produce the experiences, the outcomes of our lives. Someone has put it this way: life is 10% what happens and 90% how you respond. In other words, what happens to you in your life, even as disruptive as it is, what happens to you in your life is not as important as how you respond. Let me change that. As how you choose to respond. And so our response to change is critical. But we have to bring a different, add to that awareness that we often get trapped with what we did yesterday and how we did it yesterday. Peter Drucker, who was one of the management gurus of the 70s and the 80s, he put it this way. He says, the greatest danger in the times of turbulence is not the turbulence. It is to act with yesterday's logic. To put it in today's context, the greatest danger in times of COVID-19, with all of its disruption to our lives, is not COVID-19. It is if we respond to COVID-19 based upon the way we responded to the changes in our life up to and including March 27th. We've got to come with a different way of seeing, a different way of thinking, a different way of feeling, and a different way of behaving if we are going to be appropriate for the moment. So what is that different way of thinking? Remember I said to you that these surfers, that there's a body of knowledge that these surfers must have that allows them to take on these very dangerous waves? Let me suggest to you a body of knowing that may be helpful, that I believe will be helpful at this time. That body of knowing says this first. It says that change is not the only constant in our lives. Most of us think it is, but it is not. You've been taught that. It is not. Ever present in our lives is opposites. That every single moment of life is a life in which we're facing opposites, night and day. It is 5:35 halfway around the world in the AM in somebody's country at this moment, night and day, light and darkness, right and wrong, left and right. Because life is about opposites, always perpetually about opposites, we are constantly being asked to make choices. We can go left or we can go right. We can do this or we can do that. We can make that assumption or we can make that assumption. Or we can make this assumption or we can make that assumption. We can choose to do right, we can choose to do wrong. We can choose to be respectful, we can choose to be disrespectful. We get to make those choices every moment of our lives. The challenge is that once we get to make our choices, control our choices, we don't control the consequences. That for every action, every choice that we make, there's a consequence. Those consequences are not controlled by us. Those consequences are controlled by a set of principles, a set of natural laws that just govern the universe. So what it means is, if I'm going to be effective in this time, and the time past this time, I've got to get to a place where I take responsibility for my choices. Because I'm always being asked to make a choice. In every moment of my life, in every circumstance, I'm being asked to make a choice. And I don't control the choices, I control the consequences, I control only my choices. What it means is, if we're going to be effective, we've got to become persons who engage in what we call consequential thinking. That is, we have to be able to think before we act. In the emotional intelligence construct, what it means is that we can't only rely on our feelings or emotions, we've got to integrate our thinking capacity and our cognitive capacity. That's what it means to be emotionally intelligent. What it means is I've got to go inside of myself, connect with myself. I've got to create that space that your grandparents talked about, where I know what I'm feeling. I'm feeling fear, distrust, anger, whatever the emotion, I'm having that emotion, but I spend time contemplating it, reflecting on it, and making a choice in that moment as to what I'm going to think, what I'm going to feel, and what I'm going to do. To be able to do that, I can't just react out of an emotion. I've got to create space to think and engage in consequential thinking. So what is my perspective as I engage this very disruptive time? One perspective is what we call the perspective of pessimism. Viewed through the eyes of a pessimist, the circumstance that we now find ourselves in, the circumstance that you now find yourself in, if you have that pessimistic perspective, you're going to see it as permanent. This is it. This is it. You're going to see it as pervasive. You're going to see it as just encompassing and demarking the entire sum of your life. And you're going to see yourself as not having the power to do anything about it. And if that is how you see it, then that is the truth for you. The opposite of that is to take on the perspective of an optimist. An optimist will look at exactly the same circumstance that the pessimist is looking at, but say it is temporary. This too shall pass. He will look at exactly the same circumstance as the pessimist and will tell himself, and it does not demark the sum of my life. It is a blip on the radar. It is isolated. It does not define the sum of who I am or my life. And the optimist will look at the same circumstance as the pessimist and tell herself, there's something I can do. I might have my head at this moment around what it is exactly I need to do, should be doing, but there's some effort on my part that is possible. And if I apply that effort, I know I can come out of this on the successful side. What's going to be your choice? Stephen Covey puts it this way. He says, don't let the things you can do nothing about. Talking about perspective. He says, don't let the things you can do nothing about interfere with the things that you can do a great deal about. In other words, in the experience that we're currently having, that you are presently having, there are matters completely outside of your control. And there are some matters that are directly within your control and within your influence. I suggest that to a significantly high degree, those things that are in your control have to do with you. And so I'm referencing now what is called the 4 dimensions of life. That in this time, step back and treat to your whole person. By that, what do I mean by that? What are you doing in this moment to take care of this body, this temple? Because whatever happens, if COVID is going to pass, when it passes, you still have to function with this body. What are you doing in the meantime to take care of this body? That would be exercise. That would be your diet, your nutrition. That would be the degree to which you expose yourself to the stressors that are around you. That would be a lot of the social media and the messages and the news. And, what can you do and what do you do to reduce the stressors in your life, to engage in stress management? That's the level of the physical, that would be your body. What are you doing in the meantime, in this time, to develop your mind? What materials are you reading? What visualizing, what contemplation of the future are you engaged in? And with that visualizing, what planning are you doing? Are you doing any journaling? That's important because they say life is best lived looking forward, best understood looking back. And what journaling does, it allows you to capture your thoughts and experiences and feelings in the moment. And then when you look back, a body of wisdom, some lessons will emerge. And you can carry forward those lessons with you now as wisdom. Still working with the development of your mind, there are any number of online courses that are available to you. Free. Don't have to pay a cent. That you can expand your awareness, you can expand your consciousness, you can expand your understanding of life, of how life works, and the things that are important to you, how they work. So what are you doing in terms of developing your knowledge through online courses? What are you doing in the meantime to upgrade your skills, expand your skills, or learn new skills? And I know that through this program, that there's going to be an opportunity for you to be able to do that as well, to expand your skills so that when COVID is past, when this disruption is past, you're ready and appropriate for the new moments, the new normal that's going to be set in your life. And in the meantime, is there someone, some organization, your own organization who can benefit because you go into a mode now of service? Find something to give yourself to, where there's nothing in it except the pleasure of knowing you've given to somebody else. Scripture says it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. What is it that you have by way of knowledge, by way of skill, by way of time that you can share with someone else? Who in your space needs some empathy from you, some understanding? who is the person or who are the persons you can collaborate with to work problem solving. That's what synergy means, to work problem solving, to find creative solutions to the problems that you're facing in your personal life, the challenges you may be facing in terms of your work life. And what do you do in the meantime to develop a sense of peace within yourself, a sense of well-being? All that's at the level of the social and emotional self. And at the spiritual being, as a spiritual being, what are you doing in the meantime? Because that's in your control in terms of your personal vision and mission and purpose in life. What time do you allocate for prayer and for reflection and for meditation? Those things are in your control, because what you're doing here is working on the things that you can do a great deal about. You don't need anybody's permission, approval. You can make conscious decisions about these things: how you treat your body, how you continue to develop your mind, how you develop your relationships, put yourself to serve others, and what you do to sustain some sense of spiritual well-being for yourself. You are not going to dismiss negative thoughts and feelings. That's not the goal. It says that's impossible. The goal is to change how you respond to the experience that you're having, and respond in a way that allows you to be your most effective self in this moment, and to be your most effective self after this moment. I'll stick a pin and take some feedback from you.
You moderator. Well, Tony doing for some feedback. I just want to comment that listening to Tony, two things just came back to me as you were speaking, Tony. The Desiderata.
Yes.
And the prayer of serenity.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Go up placidly amid the noise, and remember what peace there may be in silence. Yes.
Yeah.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes. The courage to change the things that I can, and that has to do with me to go to work on myself, and the wisdom.
Know the difference.
To know the difference, yes. Excellent, Jeffrey. Excellent observation. I just saw a note saying that I see what happened. I know what happened. Anyway, what's done is done. Okay, I can change that. Okay. Any other comments? You can put your comments in the chat.
I see that someone actually typed, as you were speaking, Tony, someone finished off the prayer of serenity for you.
Yes, sir. Any other comments, feedback to my presentation too? That's about choice making, taking conscious responsibility for the choices you are making. Sonia has raised her hand. Jamila, could you let Sonia in?
Sure.
Yes, Sonia.
Sonia's on mute right now. Just unmute yourself, Sonia.
Somebody has a question here? Okay, that was earlier. Okay.
No questions?
Well, that was a question from earlier. Okay, so.
There's just a comment, Tony, in the comment in the chat.
Yes.
One person is saying, if any apparent negative, I believe there's some positive that may be derived. So you can possibly comment on that and encourage persons, yes, though circumstances may seem negative, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and this too shall pass.
Not even at the end of the tunnel.
Along the way.
Yes, no, light and darkness coexist. Light and darkness coexist. When problems turn up, attending problems are also solutions. The challenge is that we get focused on the problem and we don't go looking for the solution. But there's no problem that has turned up in our lives that wasn't attended, that didn't have in tow, if not the full solution, the seeds of the solution attached to it. And that's what I meant when I said that life is always about opposites. But human beings, what we are, we tend to go for and tend to focus on what's wrong. We tend to focus on the negative. But where there's negative, there's positive coexisting.
Thank you, Tony.
Sure.
Do we have any other comments or any other questions? Now is your opportunity. And you can place them in the chat.
Yeah, Gail, if I may, while we're waiting for any other questions, just to add to what Tony said with regard to responding to that comment, the truth is that with the impact of COVID, it certainly has taken us by surprise.
It has.
And as a result of that, there are a lot of negative effects. But when we sit and look at the opportunities that have arisen, positive changes that have come as a result, things that might not have occurred as quickly as they have, changes in the banking sector, the way we do business. There are a lot of positive things that have come about as a result of the negative impact of COVID. It doesn't negate the impact of COVID on our lives in certain ways, but there certainly has been change that has been forced as a result of it that probably wouldn't have occurred as quickly as it has.
Has anybody heard of Zoom?
What's that?
I think that's the only medium we know now, Tony, for meetings.
Yeah, but 6 months ago, very few of us would have been talking about Zoom. Right. But Zoom is thriving at this time. I am told that on any one day, there are 300 million people who are on Zoom. Now let's assume that half of them are paid subscribers. Multiply 150 million by $14.99. That's the kind of revenue they're taking in every month. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And so the persons who are able to thrive in these times of disruptions are those persons who are able to look beyond what they're seeing and seeing possibilities. And that's what meant by visualizing. What is happening now that can be done differently, can be gone at differently, and create business opportunities, either at the individual level or at the corporate level. And that's why I use the quotation from Drucker. He says, the greatest danger in the time of turbulence is not the turbulence. It is to act with yesterday's awareness, yesterday's logic, yesterday's way of thinking, yesterday's perspectives. So we have to take up new perspectives. So at the level of the individual, I've been a bartender, I have been a waiter, I've been a chef, I've been front office. Yes, great. But where can you function in a new space? And what do you need to do yourself to prepare to be able to function in that new space? How is the market shifting? How are demands of customers, I guess, how are they likely to change? And what do I need to do at the individual level? And what do we need to do at the corporate level, at the organization level, to ready ourselves for that new experience? Yeah? I'll share very quickly an experience I've been sharing. I spent Christmas 2018 in London. This day was downtown central London by Parliament and the Big Ben and the bridge and all that stuff. And I got really hungry. I randomly popped into a restaurant. It took me a little while, and by scanning through a magazine that was on the table, I discovered that I could order my meal on my phone. I ordered my meal and I paid for my meal on my phone. Within a minute or two of completing the transaction, my drink appeared on my desk, on my table. And 5 or 7 minutes later, my meal appeared. And when it was finished, my meal, I got up and I left. The point I'm making is there was no human interaction except the person who came to bring my drink and to bring my meal. That's where the market is at. Yeah. So if we have to be able to be ready to take on new ways of thinking. That if we keep wishing for things to come back the way they were, we're opening ourselves up to tremendous frustration, to tremendous disappointment and anger. But if we can get our heads around, okay, things are changing. What do I need to do to be able to change the changing times? Somebody says COVID is freeing people from the normal routine to stop, think, and create. Somebody asks, what do you suggest companies do to try to keep their employees positive and motivated? Certainly, experiences like this. But the greatest thing that I think organizations can do is if the leaders themselves have that head around optimism, begin to trust the ingenuity and the creativity of their teams, of their staff, and says, guys, let's begin to create together. Let's begin to imagine and reimagine together, and able to pull people together and reinvent themselves. No one person can do that by themselves. So it's going to take the organization as best as they can to get as many people involved in reimagining and reinventing their businesses. That's going to call for a high level of trust. It's going to call for a different way of operating. This way of command and control, that everything must come from the top, those days are over. In a circumstance, for example, where more and more people are working from home, you have to trust people and let people bring their best to the game. And having done that, you have to be able to reward people appropriately for what it is that they're bringing to the experience. Okay, so I have some questions for you. What are your key takeaways? So if you can put in your answers and you can key in as many as you think are your takeaways. What are your takeaways from today, from our short webinar? What are the key learning points for you?
Tony, I don't know if you're a Pontrim, but I saw a comment here that just made me smile. It says, no more welcome smiles. So print the smile on the mask.
Yes, 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 yes. Nice. Print the smile on the mask. There's another quotation. Can't remember the author at this moment. He says that all significant breakthroughs were first significant breakthroughs, all ways of thinking. He's saying the same thing as Drucker. All significant breakthroughs. That if we're going to be adequate, appropriate, if we're going to raise to the equation, whatever language you want to put in there, however you want to frame it, if we're going to be able to rise to this moment, all of us have got to begin thinking differently. We got to get out of the past. It ain't coming back. Not the way it used to be. We got to get out of the past. We said earlier that change is constant. It is the nature of life. This one is just very, very perverse and very disruptive, but it is change nevertheless. So we've got to have that conversation with ourselves. Things are changing. And if I don't change, I'm going to die. Because things are not going to change back to the way that they want them to just because of me. So I've got to make the adjustment. Okay, so we have 45 people in 84. Can we get this up to at least 60? Somebody says, Tony, please share the quotation on the last human freedom, if you can recall it. That's the Stephen Covey quote you're talking about, Renee? You are right, Shadeen. It says the new normal is possible to handle. Just takes a little to getting used to. Yes. So yes, it's going to shock you at first, yeah. But make the move. Make the move. And at first, it will be gingerly. It will be baby steps, but keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving as best you can. Action is the antidote to fear. Whatever fear you're having, act. Act in spite of your fear. Because all fear is a projection. Fear is not real. So the more you act, you can't fear something that has happened. You can fear it happening again. But the more you act, fear dissipates. Action is the antidote to fear. I think it has something to do with choice. Yes, but that's Viktor Frankl talks about the last human freedom, right? It says the last human freedom is the ability to choose your response in circumstances which you have no control. That's a quotation from Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, right? It says the last human freedom is the ability to choose your response, especially in circumstances over which you have no control. That's where your power resides. Your power resides in your choice making. Some person says, see change as a door to go through to grow. Excellent, excellent. Somebody needs to write that down. See change as a door to go through so you can grow. Because in the absence of change, there is no growth. There's no stretching. Right? There are no new vistas, no new hills to climb or to conquer. All right, so what do we have here? I'm going to end the poll. Anybody else? 10 more seconds. So far, we have 49 of the 85 persons who've made a contribution. Leading the pack is life is 10%. Remember, the question is what your key takeaway is. Life is 10%, what happens, and 90% who you respond. Take that with you. That is followed. The things in my control have to do with my physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual being. Yes. How I take care of my body, how I continue to develop my mind, the relationship I develop with myself, and my relationship building with others, and my relationship with my creator. Those things are in my control. I can work on those things. And the more I work on those things, the more I get control over the things that today I don't have control over. Excellent. Also, I too can learn to surf the waves of change. Excellent. Hallelujah. Okay. So we're up to 50. I'll end the polling. 51. And I'll post the results so you can see what the results look like. Bringing up the rear is I need to go inside more frequently. I use that terminology, go inside. What that really treats to an emotional intelligence is about developing self-awareness. Self-awareness is at the foundation of your effectiveness. There's a quotation I often use from Lao Tzu, the 6th century Chinese philosophy. He says, if you understand others, you are knowledgeable. If you understand yourself, if you are self-aware, if you understand yourself, and more so in the moment. If in the moment you can recognize what is happening and make decisions about what your thoughts are, and your feelings are, and how you function, that's where your power resides. But self-awareness, going inside. You know, we spend a lot of time looking out. We spend a lot of time, you know, who has who, and who's doing this, and who's doing that, because you have eyes and you look out. Your personal effectiveness is going to be a function of your ability to look in, to go inside of yourself and have conversations with yourself from the perspective of being the observer of those thoughts, the observer of those feelings, the observer of those behaviors, and then regulating them so that they become what you want them to be. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and ask my last question. On this question, you only get to make one choice. What is one thing you're going to do differently as a result of participating in today's webinar? What is one thing that you're going to do differently as a result of participating in our webinar? Choose one. Oh, sorry, I didn't launch it. My apologies. If you get to this sheet, we have 41 of 86 so far, 43. And there's no right answer. You have to know for yourself which one you think will move you forward the most, allow you to move forward easier the most. All right, so I'll wait for 3 more so we get up to 50. We have 48, 49, 50, so we have 50 and 51, great. 2 more then, or 4 more? Okay, so we're at 51, so I'm going to end, and I'm going to share. So yes, stop and ask myself, what choices do I have? Yes, that's appropriate, because that means that I know that I always have a choice. Whatever the circumstances, I don't have to think this way, I don't have to feel this way, I don't have to behave this way. I have a choice. I can think and ask myself, what choices do I have? Similarly, consciously choose. So that 1 and 2 are about the same thing. Consciously choose what I think, feel. Exercise optimism is about my perspective. Question the map that I'm using. Again, that means that I stop and I think. Shift my focus to things that I can control, because I recognize that there are things outside of my control, there are things in my control, and I'm more effective when I focus on the things that I can control. Work to develop my emotional intelligence. I'll talk about that in a while. Our next full emotional intelligence program starts June the 13th. That's on Saturday mornings, 10 until 12, a series of 2-hour webinars. And the one that really leads the pack slightly is the last one, find ways to collaborate with others in finding solutions to the challenges presented by COVID-19. And that's going to be very, very important in the corporate context, in terms of your organizations, your hotels, your restaurants, and your ancillaries, etc. People have to come together. I like the quotation from Ken Blanchard. He says, none of us is as smart as all of us. So if you are on the webinar this evening and you are a manager, you're an owner, you're a leader, make every effort to bring people together and have open and candid conversations about where we are and about what is possible. You will surprise yourself at the ingenuity and the creativity that will emerge once people buy into the sense that they have a collective responsibility for the outcomes of their lives, that it is not so important what happens. What is more important is how we respond. So Jeffrey, Gail, Jamila, Tanisha, and Gail, thank you most kindly, BTMI and BHD, for the opportunity to be able to share with you this evening. It's been my absolute pleasure. Back over to you, Gail.
Thank you very much, Tony. That was a very enlightening session. Actually, in the chat, one of the persons said it was a very interactive session and they really thoroughly enjoyed it. So thanks very much again.
Sure.
And ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our webinar. I'm not too sure if any other panelists want to give any closing remarks. Give them an opportunity to do so now. Gail or Jeffrey, do you want to give any closing remarks?
Well, I guess I haven't said much for the session, but I've enjoyed it tremendously. And I want to encourage all the persons listening to share this series of webinars and interventions that we have come up with. The Tourism Task Force and the HR committee in the Tourism Task Force have come up with to help our frontline personnel, in particular those in the accommodation sector and all the other subsectors of the tourism industry in Barbados, including private and public. So immigration, customs, everyone, medical personnel, everyone that is in that interaction with a guest or with people who come to visit our country. Tourism is a very important industry. And like all the industry, like all the countries in the world, we are all at the same point where we are hoping that the industry will come back better and bigger and stronger and better. And when that happens and when airlift takes off again and people have that confidence to travel, we want Barbados to be at the forefront of their list. Actually, I saw an article only this week talking about what are some of the destinations that British Airways would ask the countries there to have particular types of restrictions lifted for them or for their passengers. And Barbados was one of those top 25 countries that were listed. So really Barbados is in the forefront of our source markets, the people in our source markets that would normally come to Barbados. And the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. is doing a wonderful job keeping in contact and engaging those our visitors and our friends and our family, those people that come to Barbados. So these sessions are just meant to engage you, and we want to let you know that next week we have 3 more sessions that are going to be held between Monday to Friday. I believe we're going to have 3 more sessions. We're going to put that up in the chat for you. We're also going to send you out a flyer which would tell you what they are, but we're going to be dealing with mental health, physical health. We're also going to be dealing with leading in times of crisis. We're going to have Norma Shorey. She is a colleague of Tony, and she is going to be dealing with leading in times of crisis. And we're also going to have dealing with personal finances, how we deal with personal finances. We're going to deal with that as well. And on Friday, our big event on Friday coming is being hosted I know Jeffrey was waiting for me to get to that punchline. He just waiting for me to get to that punchline. On Friday, we're having a session on Instagram Live I'm having you to know, and it's going to be hosted by Kurt Brown. We're hoping that he agrees to go ahead with that. And we are going to be having some of our top soca artists in Barbados who depend on the tourism industry for some of their livelihood as well, to come and shout out and to come and share some of the experiences that they themselves are feeling during this time. And so some of those big names are going to be there. I wouldn't spoil the fun for you, but you need to log on and you need to come on with us at 6 p.m. on Friday, so you'll be able to see what we have. Lots of games and lots of some music as well.
Mhm.
And there may be a giveaway or two.
Giveaways.
So let us see what we have in the bag as a surprise. So Friday, I'm looking for everyone, and tell everybody in the industry and everybody that wants to join, come and have some fun with our tourism players. So I'm going to hand over. I think I've taken up all the time that I didn't talk about in before. I've taken it up now. So over to Jeffrey. Jeff?
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail. I was a little concerned initially because Gail started to speak about what was coming next week.
Yes.
And I was thinking she jumped over Friday and forgotten about Friday. But I was glad she came back and talked about Friday.
Yes.
You know? No, but as Gail said, you know, one of the things that we discussed when we were putting this together was that, you know, it's great to come and do some webinars about, you know, dealing with stress, managing in this environment, etc. But we want to host a session where people can come and relax and just have a good time. Yeah. So I encourage you to join us on Friday. For those of you who have done it over the last 9 weeks or so, you know, we'll be having drinks online virtually with our friends. So grab a glass on Friday. If you don't drink alcohol, a glass of juice is fine, but just make sure that you're there. In closing, I just want to say thank you very much to Tony. This topic today is a topic that I am very, very keen on. Tony knows this very well. You know, the whole concept of leadership and emotional intelligence, etc. And I dare say that, you know, all of us need to recognize, no matter what our role is, that we are all leaders. We all have a role to play in leading, and I urge everyone to exercise that role. You know, Tony's done a very good job today, in my view, of presenting his material. As I said, for me, I sat here listening to him and started to reflect on things like the desiderata and the prayer of serenity, right? And I think those things, if we really delve into what the message is behind some of these things, it gives us comfort and strength. But I want to close on just saying thank you to all the attendees. I know Gail will do her piece to thank all of the support team as well, because there are many persons who are
Behind the scenes.
our meetings, behind the scenes, trying to make sure that this comes together very well. We had a slight technical glitch at the beginning, but we'll ignore that. Crisis, we can work through the crisis. Yeah. But guys, as Gail said, the intention with this is that, and this is Gail Springer, that
Yes.
we intend that at the end of this, that when Barbados emerges on the tourism and hospitality scene, that we will be stronger than we were before, right? There is going to be competition, intense competition, when tourism starts to emerge on the world scene. But Barbados was always at the forefront, and we intend to remain there. And we can do this only through the efforts of all of us. You know, it's a collaborative effort, and I look forward to us succeeding at this. So Gil, thank you.
You're
Back over.
welcome.
All
Thanks
the best,
very much.
guys.
Good.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, Tony, Jeffrey,
absolute-
Gail,
My absolute
all the-
pleasure.
and all the persons in the background. We must give kudos to the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. Without them, this event definitely would not have been possible. Tanisha and Jamila have been doing a fantastic job. They respond immediately whenever we need assistance. And as you know, pulling this event together does take some time. So kudos to the team. We also want to thank all the participants. You keep coming out, keep encouraging your friends, keep encouraging all those tourism workers, all those persons on the front line, encourage them to participate in our webinar. Come on Friday, 6 p.m. It's going to be an epic session. And as Gail said, there will be lots of giveaways. There'll be lots of prizes. So please come out to that session. And let me just close up by just saying one thing. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So this is a new normal. We're going to embrace the change, and Barbados is going to rebound and be #1 in
Yes.
destination in the Caribbean. Have a
So
great
let it-
evening,
So
everyone.
let it be.
And-
Yes, please.
Yes, so let it be. And thanks
Yes.
very much for joining our webinar series, Barbados Together. We can do this. Thank
Yes,
you.
Absolutely.
We can do this.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and all.